Salutations. I'm holding the ASUS Sabertooth 990FX motherboard. This is one hell of a sturdy motherboard. In fact, a lot of the parts on this are military grade. Most of the parts on this are all the parts on this military grade? Hold on a second. Yeah, it's just, there's a lot of serious stuff going on right here. Let's talk about what we're looking at right here. Now, this is the 990FX as opposed to the 890FX. Not much has changed except for this is an AM3 Plus socket. It's still compatible with the AM3 sockets. That's one thing that's nice about AMD. A lot of times when they move to the new socket, you still have compatibility with the older socket. So if you've got a nice AM3 CPU and you want to move up to something that has a very, very nice PCI Express option, very nice PCI Express options. Eric, this has very nice PCI Express options. SLI on an AMD board. NVIDIA is finally cuddling up with AMD, and you know, this has been out for a few months, so it's not new news, but it makes me so happy even now, even a few months after it's out. Another thing that's nice about this, this is one of their extreme enthusiast motherboards. Now the power design is also nice, 8+2, and it's also digitally controlled. I'll get into that in just a second. You know what, let's just take a tour of everything, because I can go through here talking about the features, or I could give you a tour and tell you what all the features are as we go through the motherboard. So let's do that. Now starting off right here with the socket, and all around the socket, see this huge heatsink here on the top. Now that's covering up the chokes, and those are all alloy chokes. Also right in front of that the chokes are right there in the front. Underneath that there are the MOSFETs, and they're fancy MOSFETs. That's not their marketing jargon. I think they use something else, but they're really high quality MOSFETs. All the capacitors on the motherboard are solid state, and so that's going to be really nice. As far as the power going to everything on the motherboard, including the socket, they're using an 8+2 phase Digi VRM. It's so small. Dude, look how small that is. Small. Yeah, that chip right there, that's a brain. It's like a tiny little processor. And what that's doing is it's digitally monitoring the power going to the entire system. So because of that, and because of all the other features on this, when you go in to overclock this thing in the BIOS, which is really nice, you're going to be able to do voltage increments, or the voltage increments are as low as 0.005 volts. You're going to be able to change it. There's almost an infinite amount of options as far as what you can do. The other thing that's nice, they have dual intelligent processors, is what they call it. There's the EPU, which is the energy processing unit, and then the turbo processing unit, the turbo V processing unit. Now what that does, the energy processing unit, it looks at what you're doing and looks at the load that's coming to the motherboard, and it can basically change the multiplier, change the frequency on the fly, so that you're able to get nice energy savings. What am I looking for, Eric? Your efficiency, yes. You're able to be efficient, you're able to save power, and then when you need power, the turbo processing unit kicks in and you've got all the power you need. And also the thing that's nice about the turbo processing unit, it can go in there and look at what you have and do like an automatic overclock. It's not going to be as, maybe as high as what you can get, but it'll look at it and it'll automatically adjust, and it'll get, say, like right here at this rating, maybe 5 gigahertz overclock. You're right. Maybe a 500 megahertz overclock. It'll say right about there you're going to be stable, but you can always go in and change it even higher. So there's your AM3 socket and the power phase design around that. Now take a look at the RAM slots. We have 4 DDR3 slots, and they support up to 1866 megahertz memory. You can get over 2,000 megahertz if you do overclocking as well. Now I want to note that these only have the clips on one side for easy removal of the RAM, because I know people are putting RAM in and out of the systems every 20 minutes. I don't know if that's a huge deal or not. The RAM still stays in there just fine. No big deal, but they've only put the clips on one side. You slide it in and you clip down on that side. All right, moving on around, we have something over here. There's a button that says MemOK. What does that do? Sometimes if you have a memory error, the system won't boot. Well, this button magically will allow you to boot and bypass the memory error. So that's one really cool way to solve a problem that some of you may have here and there and help diagnose your system. There's a USB 3 header right on the motherboard. So I really like the fact that they've included that. I really like the large heatsink right here on the south bridge. The south bridge doesn't exactly need this big of a heatsink, but it's nice to see that it's going to stay nice and cool, especially when you're overclocking. Always, always good to know. All right, so beside the power connectors reset, the front panel and all that, that's serial right there. How do you like that? Then we have 2 USB 2.0 connectors, and each of those supports 2, making 14 in total for the entire board. Beyond that, we've got the IE1394 or FireWire. Beside that, we've got audio, including SPDIF. And there, that supports HD audio. Moving on around here, see what else we've got. Take a look at the SATA options we have here. We have 8 SATA options. The 6 SATA options here that are sort of a brownish color, those are 6 gigabit SATA. Right here we have SATA 2, which is 3 gigabit, and that uses the J Micron controller. So separate controller there for those two. And these 6 use full speed 6 gigabit SATA. Take a look at the back here, all the options. We have the ins and outs for audio. That's a Realtek ALC892 audio controller. It supports 8-channel audio. Beside that, we have Gigabit Ethernet, which is another Realtek device. There's 10 USB ports on the back, USB 2 that is, 2 USB 3.0. And I want to mention that this uses the AS Media ASM1042 USB 3.0 controller, which is quite a bit faster and quite a bit better than the NEC model that we've been seeing on a lot of the motherboards out on the market. So very nice to note that that's on here. You're going to get a lot of speed out of that. We have 2 eSATA controllers. Those are both J Micron. Beyond that, we have digital audio right here on the back, and that's a combo PS2 for your mouse and keyboard, all in the back. Now, if you're going to be running multiple graphics cards, here's the way it's going to work. The first graphics card runs at 16. If you're running 2, 16, 16. So you get full bandwidth with 2. That's really nice. If you're going to be running 3, you're going to run 16, and then 8, and then 8. There's also another PCI Express on the bottom. You're not going to be using that one for a video card, though, however. Lastly, we have a legacy slot. That's the PCI slot for people like me. And Max, you still use PCI a lot, don't you, for sound cards? I know there's PCI Express sound cards out there, but I've still got one that I love. Got a Zentech, and I'll probably put it right there. So there you have it. And then you have, of course, the 1X PCI Express slot. These are all PCI Express 2.0. So I really like the options we have here. Of course, it supports HyperTransport 3.1. This is a quote-unquote server-grade reliability. The coating you see on all of the heat sinks, it's a ceramic coating that they put on all of their server-grade or their enthusiast products. Actually gives it a nice textured feel. It's a really high-quality product. It's going to make it last longer as well. So that's nice, and I really like the look of it. So there's your ceramics. All right, let me show you everything that's in the box. We have the in and out panel. This is really nice. It's got insulation on the back. Everything is clearly labeled. How swell is that? There are some headers here to give you, if you need to raise it up a little bit. Because sometimes it's difficult to work right on the motherboard. We've got one of these for USB and a little header for your front panel connectors. We have several SATA cables, 4 in total. Also, nice to note that the SATA cables are all L-shaped and facing the back of the motherboard. And these, we have some L cables here as well. So that's very nice. And also in the box, we do have our Crossfire connector. Put that back in there. Our manuals. Tough series motherboard. This is a very tough series motherboard. Military grade parts, like I was telling you. Some installation CDs. RTFM, please. Also, this certificate of reliability. This is ridiculous. It's got like gold font on the top. It's really shiny. Sabertooth 990FX motherboard, and it just goes through everything that's all the tests this thing has passed. Rigid reliability tests, thermal shock tests for the capacitors, moisture resistance, salt spray test. It goes on and on. So they've put this thing to hell and back, and then they've given it to you only after it's passed all those tests. Let's talk about the new BIOS. It's not the old school BIOS. This is the GUI. It's UEFI BIOS. They call it the ASUS EFI BIOS, and this BIOS is beautiful. Eric, you're using one of these on your new motherboard. It's beautiful. You're like, you get into it. If you've just come from like an older BIOS and you're moving into the UEFI style BIOS, you're like, whoa! It's really pretty. You can use your mouse, and really, really, really a lot easier to use. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is change it from easy mode to advanced mode, so you have access to all the options. And then, as far as overclocking goes, it's almost infinite what you can do. It's quite ridiculous. And overclocking achieved on this board is quite nice. If you're looking for something for the bulldozer, this is something I would definitely be considering. It's the ASUS 990FX. It's the Sabertooth edition, and it's just solid all the way through. See you next time.